Having served on frontline conservation in Latin America as a wildlife veterinarian for 30 years, I know how everything is at risk and how we must take risks to address climate change, political upheaval, and extinction. But how can we do this? If you are like me, you know that the stakes are high, but the way forward isn't clear. There was a time when I was lost.
My story begins in the 1980s when I worked in Guatemala as a wildlife veterinarian. I specialized in parrots, and I really wanted to know how the parrots were doing in Guatemala. So we had a study to see what limiting factors might be impacting their reproduction. Here I am with a young yellow-naped Amazon chick wild, temporarily down from her nest so I can see how the bird is doing. Here is another nest of 3 wild yellow-nape Amazon chicks. We only had them down for about 15 minutes and they would return to their family. But while we had them down from their nest tree, we would study them and see how their health was, take blood samples, and we were trying to understand if there was anything these birds needed from us and that we could provide for them. And what we found out after several years of working in the south coast of Guatemala during the 80s and 90s was that the underlying cause of their reproductive limitations was human dimensions of conservation. For instance, it was the poverty, the extreme income inequality between those at the lower echelons and those at the higher. For instance, only 6 of these children live in this one-room house with a dirt floor. Having so few economic choices puts them often in a desperate strait, choosing to take the parrots from the wild and sell them illegally into the wildlife trade, such as this box full of young orange-chinned parakeets that were on their way for the pet trade or to a restaurant. And behind this poverty was government corruption, violence, and a civil war. This is a bridge about a mile from the house where I lived in Guatemala, and it's being rebuilt, and there's a burned out semi-truck to the side that the guerrillas burned as they blew up the bridge. And it was on Christmas Eve, and so spray painted red on the side of the truck was Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas. So against these extreme challenges, we still did all we could for the conservation of this yellow-naped parrot. Here's a female coming out of her termite mound that is up in the tree. And they nest in termite mounds, but they most often nest in trees as well as roost, such as this towering ceiba tree. It's the mythic tree of the Mayan tradition, and it's also the national tree of Guatemala. And in the background, you can see smoking volcanoes that we saw every day. And so they nested in these ceiba trees, and we had 3 different ranches, fincas, where we protected them. And what happened in the last year in the mid-1990s is that these fincas converted much of their cattle land to sugarcane. And so the tractors came, and we literally threw our bodies in front of the tractor so they wouldn't take down these ancient trees. This tree had yellow-naped chicks still nesting. And so we were able to get that tractor to desist and not tear that tree down for that one moment. But we were largely unsuccessful across the area, and we lost so many trees just in the 90s, and it's been worse since. I came back to the United States because I couldn't take it anymore. There was so much loss and poverty and death and violence. In fact, I even feel that I had post-traumatic stress syndrome. So I know firsthand the challenges and possible despair and hopelessness that comes upon one seeking to build a world more just and compassionate. But I've also learned that there's an underlying and unifying web of beauty that connects us to all life. And if we can tap into that, we can gain the tools and the resilience to nurture ourselves and all life. And so I've learned to slow down and to connect to that beauty. In later years, it became a ritual as I worked with all the various people. This is a Mosquito indigenous village in Honduras. And what we do is we slow down and we talk about things. And this is the beginning of the breeding season of the scarlet macaw. And so we all gathered around and told stories and told prayers and gave blessings for our work for the coming year. And when it became my turn, I decided I was going to recite my favorite prayer, which is from Mary Oliver's Wild Geese. Except they don't have geese in Honduras. So I changed it so it would include the macaws. Please forgive me, Mary Oliver. And so I began in English, and it was translated into Spanish and into Mosquito. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the jungle or the pine savanna. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world moves on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rains are moving across the landscapes over the tall pine trees and the deep jungles and the wide rivers and the bean and the cornfields. Meanwhile, the macaws, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Now, right when I got to this part of the poem, we heard macaws calling off in the distance. They were coming towards us. And we looked out in the distance and we saw that there were 5 of them. That was a rare sight. Not too many years ago, you could see 50 go over. But it was a group of 5, and it probably meant a mother and a father and the growing children of the macaws. And so I continued the poem as the birds got ever closer and closer. No matter who you are, no matter how lonely you are, the world offers itself to your attention, calls to you, harsh and exciting, like the wild macaws, announcing over and over again your place in the family of things. And right as I finished the poem, the family of 5 flew towards us, and they were directly overhead. Those of us of so many nationalities and experiences reacted with joy, and we wept. Because seeing the birds come to us, being reminded of beauty, connected us to them and to life. And it is moments like this that allows ordinary individuals to produce extraordinary results in extraordinary times, such as the work here in Honduras. We were able to feel welcomed on this planet and to welcome others. So I have learned to be able to continue the work and how to connect and to slow down, even though the losses are great. We may not save these birds or these people. But somehow I found a way to live with both the beauty and the tragedy. This is a line out of the movie The Thin Red Line. And it's a soldier in World War II in the Pacific. And a hillside has just been bombed. And a parrot that was up in a tree has been bombed out of the tree. And it's a young chick, and the young chick is dying. And the soldier, the hero of the movie, looks at the bird and muses. One man looks at a dying bird and thinks there's nothing but unanswered pain, that death's got the final word. It's laughing at him. Another man sees that same bird, feels the glory, feels something smiling through it. So somehow we feel the whole of everything. and we can continue our work. And so living with tragedy is not about feeling good or happy. It's about feeling everything and finding a way to make our peace with that. It helps us feel alive. It helps us continue the work. And if we push these feelings away, we can disconnect. So we open ourselves to life and to love. All that is, even though we have fear and we are uncomfortable. Now, this healing that has come to me in part because of the great meaning in life from doing this work, and also the meaning of a vision of interbeing. One Earth Conservation is founded on this, and our work in Latin America is based on this. Here's what the vision of interbeing says. It's a reality check. It's that all individuals have inherent worth and dignity. All bodies are beautiful, have worth, and matter. And all these individuals are connected to each other in worth, beauty, and well-being. We are also connected in harm. There's no beauty without tragedy. What we do to one, we do to all of us. If we can embrace this reality, we are embraced and nurtured in return, and in return again, we can nurture others. This reality of interbeing makes us really powerful and vulnerable. So we need each other to grow and heal as much as possible. Because humans are adaptable, we can become compassionate and more effective and joyful nurturers. This is hard, deep, intentional, and a lifetime's work. And this lifetime work is about accepting reality and being accepted by reality, welcomed to know our place in the family of things. So the work we do with One Earth Conservation, our Nurture Nature program in the United States and our conservation in Latin America, it's about seeing reality and then living it and loving it. And to help us do this, we help ourselves and others really develop our natural intelligences. And we have so many of these. But the 5 that we work on are these 5: emotional, social, multi-species, ecological, and spiritual intelligence. These are the foundation of what keeps me going and gets me up in the morning. Let me just give you a quick preview of what these are. Our further coursework goes in much greater detail. Indeed, these all are a lifetime work. Well, emotional intelligence. It's the ability to identify, assess, and control the emotions of others and of groups. And not so much control, but to have choice. And it's asking, what am I feeling and needing? And then having greater choice in our behavior around this. So one practice of emotional intelligence is self-empathy. And this isn't about feeling needy or having it all be about you. It's just checking in and going, what am I feeling and needing? All life feels and needs. And then to accept it and be curious about it. And so a practice would be, no wonder I'm feeling blank, put in an emotional word. I'm really needing, and putting in a needing word. Again, this is a lifetime's work, but I want to leave you with just one quick trick that you can do, and it's a major practice for myself as well. And so if I see, for instance, a parrot nest tree has just been poached, or a friend has been killed, I take time and I say, no wonder I'm feeling sad. I'm really needing the well-being of others. And so this is a part of emotional intelligence that can help us be present in the world. It's very similar to social intelligence. Social intelligence is the ability to be curious about the feelings and needs of others and having choice about how to interact and influence others. It's asking, what are others feeling and needing? And so we have practices around this as well. And here's one that I will leave you with. It's empathizing with the other. It's not blaming, saying you did it or you did it. And it's how to live a life that's not based on fear. And the way we can do that is to put ourselves into the shoes of someone else, especially someone you might be having judgment with. So what might they be feeling and needing? That's what we're asking. And then you do the same practice that we were doing with self-empathy. No wonder they are feeling blank. I guess they need blank. So this has helped me in my work to work across very different cultures, people who do things very differently than I do, and people who do things who hurt me and those that I love. It helps me keep connected to life and to have choice on what to do in that moment. And then the next intelligence is multi-species intelligence. It's really just a form of social intelligence. It is the ability to understand species needs, behavior, motivation, and interconnecting relations with others in their habitat so as to benefit them. It's the same question. What are they feeling and needing? And so in our work and in my work, I've learned over the time is how to put myself in the feathers, the scales, the fur, the paws, the hooves of others. And if we can connect to others in this way, we will have greater choice on how we treat with them. And it can also nurture us as well. So as I told a story earlier about how we slow down and tell stories and prayers and poems, we also slow down in the field. And here's one thing that we do to connect to other species. This is a young scarlet macaw, a little over 2 months old, just took the bird out of the nest for a while to do an exam. And there you can see a stethoscope on the examination table. So I'm conducting a health exam. And I said, well, why am I the only one that gets to touch the bird and hear the heart of the bird? And the bird seemed like the chick was doing just fine. So we all took a moment to listen to the bird. And I have a video of that.
Tell me if you can't hear it. I'll move it. Sounds beautiful. It's like music to my ears. It is the prettiest thing. To me, it's the prettiest thing in the world.
It's beautiful.
It's the prettiest thing. And then when you do surgery and you actually see the heart, you just go, oh my gosh.
Afterwards, people were crying. Someone said it was the most transcendent moment of their life to be able to hear the heart of their national bird, where now there were so few. So we connect to understand what is going on with another bird and feel that connection strongly. The fourth intelligence is ecological intelligence, and it is the ability to recognize the often hidden web of connections between human activity and nature's systems and the subtle complexities of their intersections so that we can minimize harm and maximize flourishing for all. It's just to really know what's going on out there and how harm and benefit and tragedy is all interconnected. And it's to ask the question, what are the relationships needing for the greatest flourishing? And again, since we're emphasizing empathy, is how can we connect to these relationships so that we can be connected to all of the ecology? And so ecological empathy is gaining a sense of belonging through experiencing connection and beauty in the biotic community, such as climbing trees or looking up at trees or going for a walk. It works at the subconscious level to tell us that you are good and that you belong. And our last intelligence is spiritual intelligence. It is the ability to connect to something bigger than ourselves, transcend our ego and individuality, and to respond with compassion for all of life. It's just being beyond words or judgment with the needs of the earth, just to be with it. It's the big view. And so, one spiritual practice that you can do, and there are so many, is to say this, repeat this, think this, breathe deeply with this, and say, I am the beautiful whole watching the beautiful whole and all the precious beings. Even though harm and tragedy abound, beauty and worth never diminish, both connecting everything into a living whole. And so when we base a life on the vision of interbeing and grow and work at our natural intelligences, we find that when we participate in nurturing nature, it produces activists that remodel society with more justice, compassion, and care. We have the strength and the engagement to do so, and we want to do so because we are all of life. It allows us to take risk because so much is at risk. When I was in Honduras last year, Berta Cáceres was assassinated. She was an indigenous activist trying to keep the multinational corporations from damming their river, and she was killed for her efforts. And this is adapted from some words that she once wrote. Arise, my people, so that we can take the wind of our indignation, flying free, all of us. So yes, we're indignant and we are angry, and we aim that towards liberation of ourselves and of all others. And so in our work, we're looking to build communities of solidarity, resistance, resilience, and hope. This is our work of One Earth Conservation and our Nurture Nature program. And I invite you into it. It's a lifetime practice, but please join us. Because as we discover nature and use practices to become naturers, it provides resources and resilience for nurturing oneself and Earth's beings. And we are only human. We need community for support, motivation, and to help us practice. So again, I invite you to join us by forming a Nurture Nature community. We've just recently taken this program nationally in the USA, and you can find all the information here at this website. We provide resources, guidance, and we will come to your region and help you get one started. So what are the next steps for you? How will you dare to see? How will you save your one wild and precious life? If some of your next steps might be becoming involved with One Earth Conservation and our Nurture Nature program, consider taking our Nurture Nature for Life course. It will go into much greater detail on the 5 natural intelligences, provide you many more nature practices, nurture practices, and also it is the basis for helping those who want to facilitate and build a Nurture Nature community. There are also many resources online. Nurture Nature Guide, which is free, videos, blogs, discussion guides, Nurture Nature Tips, and we have a Nurture Nature TV show. And all of these are at our website. So I would like to leave you with a reading, and it is another poem from Mary Oliver. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild, and precious life.